What's happening? Welcome back to the Shoveit Podcast. Last week we talked about motivation and momentum. So this week we're going to discuss people eating on planes.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
So in the interest of the momentum and motivation, so I think the concept of what we discussed last week was that the act of doing and the repetitive act of doing will encourage you to continue to do. Thus, improvements will appear. You will get better. You will come up with new things as you do them. And for me, that is one of the most obvious things that I always forget to apply to my creative life. But I used to do it. It's more of a recent problem. The rest of my life, I understand the concept of practicing stuff to get better. So in the interest of momentum, we're recording a podcast again. That's what we're doing. Why do I record a podcast is the question. It's mostly for my own self-indulgence, if I'm honest. I just like the process of setting it all up and playing with the gear. All right, that's all it is. Tinkering with little things. Today we've got the light stage left, before I've had it above me. And then I generally put the light up higher than my head to give me some form of chin. Otherwise, I just look like a thumb the whole way through, right? So that's strategic light positioning is what that's about. So look, let's just get into the plane situation. So the nature of my job does have me traveling about quite a bit. I have the luxury of being able to fly to some pretty cool places and film bits and pieces. Very random shit. Like, I don't know how, but my life as a creative person has always had me traveling. When I used to work in the bike industry and I traveled loads to triathlons and road cycle events and mountain bike races, downhill BMX competitions, all those sorts of things. And then my freelance life, I've worked in the beer industry where I've traveled to breweries all over all over Europe, and I work in health and fitness stuff now, and I get to travel and do commercial work in weird places. And the only time I actually had the least amount of travel was in the years where I worked in advertising, in the most creative space that I should have been in, was the one place that limited me the most. That's why I've ended up working for myself, because those years were like, I learned so much from a business perspective in those years, but fuck me, the creativity took a dive in those years, and everything around that has been fucking great. Okay. So in those years of traveling, I've got really complacent with travel. I've actually just got really fed up with travel, to be brutally honest. Sometimes it's a hindrance. When you do it a lot and you need to be somewhere, the whole concept of travel, of going through the bullshit and dealing with it all, I feel like just being like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, can I just pay you so I don't have to go through any of this shit? Like, like security, and people are like, what am I doing here? And then someone's like, I didn't know I need to take all these off. I thought I could wear 17 fucking jewel bracelets and bangles down on my arms, and then you're all stuck. It's that repetitive stuff. But the eating on planes bit is just one that's really been getting to me. So a while back, I was on this flight back from America, and I was sitting in my seat, as you do, and I was getting used. I like to travel by sleeping. I like to do very minimal amounts of moving on a plane. I get very bored. The whole concept of having to sit on a plane for extended periods of time bores me to death. So I like to treat it like time travel. I get on, put headphones on, fall asleep. I'm in another country, in another time zone. I love that. I feel like I've cheated time. I'm very good at sleeping on the move. I'm very good at micro naps, those sorts of things. That is a skill to anybody who wants to do freelance and wants to hustle or grind and work mad hours and work on cool projects. You've got to master the micro nap wherever you can. Planes are a great place for it. And I know people who just can't sleep on a plane. And people are like, I'll raw dog a flight. I could raw dog a flight asleep with no headphones. Don't even look at a map. I'll just sit there like that and just mouth breathe for the whole flight, right? So I'm sitting on this flight coming back, and I had the headphones in, and I was asleep for a good amount of time. And we got to the breakfast part of the flight. That's what it was. We'd taken off. They'd given people dinner on the plane, which I think I just avoided it. I think I just didn't eat the dinner. And I then fell asleep. Anyway, fast forward 5 hours. And it's like, where we left, it was like 3 a.m, but where we were landing was like 9 a.m. And I woke up to the smell of like pizza. And it was this weird little breakfast fucking wrap thing, right? Like a little calzone, like a breakfast pizza calzone. It's like something along the lines of that. And I was sleeping there and I was like, oh my God, I can smell this. Anyway, I opened my eyes. And as I open my eyes, I see the air hostess with the little trolley walking down the fucking aisle. And people in their seats just with their little hands out like little goblins. Just, please give me some food. Please, anything. And I was like, I looked around and then she looked at me and I was like, well, I'll have some, please. Ooh. And then I was in my seat with my seatbelt on in this cramped little fucking seat with these people next to me and this lady feeding me food, like from this little tray. Oh, there's a little, she's handing me this little fucking pocket of heat, this little lava pocket that in the very near future is going to burn the inside of my face like you will not believe. And she hands me this little fucking thing, and then she gives me this tiny little water in a fucking thing with tin foil on top, and I put that there. And then she gives me a little weird yogurt thing, and I put that on a little tiny fucking tray in a stupid little thing that folds out in the back of the seat, and I'm sitting there all cramped up, and then I'm looking around. As I'm doing it, I'm like opening the stuff, and I'm trying to eat this fucking trying to eat this really hot pocket of lava. And I'm looking at other people, and we're all doing the same thing. And I was going, this is like a social experiment. It's completely insane. I was asleep like 45 seconds ago. And I went from fast asleep to begging for food from the hands of this air hostess like a fucking caged animal. I felt like what you would imagine, like battery hens to be fucking sitting in a little cage and someone just throwing grain and seeds at them. Like, we're all sitting there like waiting for the air hostess to baby bird us food. Everyone just sitting back like, with their mouth open, and they're just fucking shoveling shit into your face. And I'm like, I wouldn't have eaten this at this time of day, anywhere, ever, at any point, for any reason. But I've just woken up from a sleep, and within seconds of my eyes opening, I'm being fed by this woman. She's just giving me, and all the other people around me. And nothing makes you feel so unindividual than sitting on a plane and watching everybody just obey the fucking rules. Everyone's there, seatbelts on, little shitty trays, terribly hot food, all going, oh, being really nice to this woman. Oh, please, I would love a bit of that, thanks. I mean, no offense, they're doing their job and they're all lovely. That's fine, there's no judgment on them. But it's the concept of them fucking, it's this, I'm looking around me like, God, we suck. Like, we suck. As people, it's such a depressing reality to look around and just go, what are we doing? We're all out here, living our own life, being individuals. We're just sitting in lines, strapped in, while a lady feeds us shit food. And then we think about cage animals like that as if we're like so far apart. And I was like, this is fucking mad. And this is where I started to really pay attention to food on planes, and just like watching people and watching the way they react. And actually, generally, I try to avoid meals on planes unless it's a nice plane or you're flying maybe business class something and the food's actually quite good. But I still find myself saying yes to the food before I've even thought about it. Like, there's this little bit of me like, it's free. It's free. It's not free. You've actually paid for it. It's part of your flight. It's free. I'm just going to eat it. I'm just going to eat this shit. Then they're handing out the tea and coffee in a very similar, same way. Shitty little mug, shitty little cup. And we're acting like we've been given something special because they're just handing it to you. And then they give you it's that little fucking plastic container of water with the tin foil lid that you have to peel. In what world are you drinking water like that ever? If somebody gave you an empty yogurt container and filled it with water, I wouldn't drink that unless I had been in a desert for 3 weeks and was near death, I'd be like, am I drinking out of that shitty yogurt container? Get me a glass. Yet here we are, just peeling the tinfoil back on this spring water, Irish spring water. Is it Aer Lingus? This is just tap water, and someone's put a bit of tinfoil over the top of it. Just get me proper water. And there you are, sipping at this shitty little cup. And then you're left with all this crap. You've got this tiny little space, all this food piled up, the little knife and fork, the salt, all the shit's on top. And then you have to sit there in your own shit, like a hamster whose cage hasn't been cleaned out in fucking days, and just wait for the powers that be to come back down whenever they can be fucking bothered with their black bag and take the rubbish away from you. It's such a fucking weird, depressing reality of human beings when you actually are self-aware of it. I feel like sometimes I'm too aware of it. And then I'm like, this is mental. And other people are like, what's the problem? I don't see it. That's just a woman who's, it's like a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant. I'm like, yeah, but it's different. It's different. Because at any time in a restaurant, I can just get up, but they can just be like, and little signs on, little red signs on. You're not allowed to leave your seat, you naughty little fucker. Sit down and eat your lava pot. That's the weird control, that whole situation. It's odd. Next time you're on a plane, you'll be aware of it now. So that was my first encounter with the weird food eating thing. Fast forward through an abundance of fucking annoying people eating shit. And I get on a flight coming back from Boston, maybe. Me and the guy, Ben, who I was traveling with, we got a Chick-fil-A to eat before we got on the plane. Just a wee burger, right? Just something to eat on. And then we're like, well, we'll get on the plane. But time we're done already, it'll digest it, we'll sit down the plane, and then we can just take a nap and get home. Time travel back to Ireland. So fucking sit down on this plane. So we walk in, right? We are economy plus on this Delta flight. And there's a row that's like almost the row where the emergency exit thing is. So there's like a little bit extra leg room. So we rock up there, and we were on the plane pretty quickly because we were on the faster boarding thing for whatever the heck that was. And so we got on the plane fairly quick, and there was a dude already sitting in the aisle seat. There was 3 seats. He was already sitting on the aisle seat. And this mustn't have been this must have been a connection flight. So it must have been one of the internal flights in America, like Atlanta to Boston or something like that, because there was 3 seats on each side. And it was quite late, right? So I was like, all right, cool, so we hop on. I think this flight was like a 4-hour flight, and then the next one was like a 5-hour flight, something like that. So hop onto this thing, and your man's already sitting there, and I thought, oh, fuck, fair enough, he's got on pretty early. And he's just sitting like this. Now, the best way to explain him, what he looked like, is if you ever watch the first Jurassic Park, and there's the little round fella who steals the dinosaur stuff and puts it in the shaving foam containers. That guy, Google that guy from the first ever Jurassic Park. That's the sort of, like, if you've watched Shallow Hell, not Hell, his mate with the bald head who wears the members only jacket, that's the sort of character we're talking about. And he's sitting there on his seat. And I just thought, oh, what a job's worth. So we get in, me and Ben sit down next to him. I mean, it's not tight, it's tight enough. We're sitting there. And then we sat on that plane for about 20 minutes, just waiting for people to stop. And the fucking guy came on, the captain came on, and he's like, hey folks, we could get away here 10 minutes early. So if everyone's just like quick as, be real efficient, put your shit in the hold, stuff about, put your shit in the cabin bags above you, whatever that is. Just do it, whatever you're doing, do it quick, sit down, let's get the fuck out of here. Of course, no one listened. Everyone took their time. Everyone minced around and was like, where's my seat? Where do I need to go? Like, first time ever on a fucking plane in 2025. And you're like, come on, people. This can't be the first time you've experienced this. You understand how the process works. And then they're joking. I get really irritated with things like this unnecessary small talk. Everyone's joking back and forth because they're in the wrong, and they're saying generic stuff like, oh, is that my seat or is that yours? I'm like, just sit the fuck down. Just look on your thing, sit down. Old mate in the front flying the plane says we can get out of here, but you have to hurry up. That didn't happen. So there we were 20 minutes later. And now we're in this plane and it's warm. And I get this whiff of jerky. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I look around, and the bro across the row from us has just opened up it's an enormous, because it's a song with an enormous bag of jerky, like 3 family share bag, like that Jack Link stuff. Now, I love jerky, and I love biltong. But when someone else opens a bag of jerky and you're not prepared for it, you're in a warm, stuffy environment, you can't escape, and you've got a seatbelt wrapped around you, it hits different. I was like, what the fuck is that? Motherfucker. And I looked over at this guy, and then I looked back towards Ben, and Ben was leaning forward, looking at me like, I can't believe this guy. And I think, like, who opens the bag of jerky like that on the plane now? While it's still warm, the airflow isn't actually going through the plane well enough. We're all a bit agitated because it's taking freaking ages. And you're just going to open a full bag of jerky and start eating. That smell is pungent. That hits you in the back, right in the back of the head. And I was like, I can't believe people. Like, me and him were just talking to each other about how annoying people are with their stupid habits, right? And then minutes go by. And at this point, we've been on the plane for half an hour. Now, remember, we got in after the fella who was sitting next to me. So he'd been in there for at least 5 minutes. But he looked very well established when we arrived. And then he just, out of nowhere, pulls out this gigantic sandwich, like the size of half a watermelon. It was huge. It was enormous. And it was just full of luncheon meats, salamis, pastrami, ham, and it had cheeses and lettuce and mustard and sauce and shit in this massive crusty roll. Now, it looked elite as far as a sandwich goes. My God, the smell was right here, and all I got first was, out of my peripheral, I just saw this this guy rummaging through his bag, and then the whiff of all the luncheon meats, and then I looked at him, and I was like, what is going on? Why is he doing? And then he just opens the whole thing up, and then just starts devouring the sandwich, and it was like one of those, like I say to my son, you can bring the bowl up, he just put his head in his own lap, like Marilyn Manson, and just went to town on this fucking sandwich. Like a pig in a trough. Just devoured this enormous luncheon meat sandwich. And part of me was like, fair play, that's going to be quite an achievement. But most of me was like, you dick. How can you? That stinks. I can't get anywhere. I'm trapped. Ben's trapped in against the window. The woman who's doing the air hostess, she's standing in the leg room. So I got her ass here. I can't fucking move forward. I can't move to my right because Ben's there. Can't move to my left because the fucking lunch man is eating out this fucking sandwich like he's never going to see a sandwich ever again. And I had to sit there for the guts of 10 minutes while he just shoveled the sandwich into him. And I was looking at Ben like, oh my God, I can't cope with people. Dealing with the general public it's painful, especially in these situations where you can't escape. Because anywhere else, I'd have just gone, fuck this, and got up and just walked away. I couldn't do anything because I was strapped in to my little seat obeying the law, right? And I was just sitting there getting more and more annoyed. And then when he finished his sandwich and just patted his little face dry with his napkin, crumpled up his paper and put it back in his bag, another host guy comes up and he's like, excuse me, sir, we've managed to get you sorted up the front here if you want to move up to Alpha 1. And I thought, why are we using that? Why are we saying Alpha 1? Just A1. He comes over, tells him up to move to A1, Alpha 1. And he, after ruining my nostrils for 10 minutes, he packs up his shit, grabs his stuff out from above, and then he just saunters on back up to first class, leaving us in the pungent fumes of his fucking luncheon meats. Ben and I are like, what a melt. What an absolute melt. Where is the decorum here? People, I just wouldn't do that because I'd be so self-conscious that I'd fuck it up for everybody else. I'd be like, I can't really open this sandwich. You think you might get away with a ham sandwich, but this was just like every fucking sliced deli counter meat you could have thought of was in this sandwich. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I said famous last words. I said to Ben, here, at least we have an empty seat to us now. And then just like that, their hostess team ganged up on me. And they were like, that guy there, let's fucking ruin this. Let's ruin this even more. So just before we're about to taxi, across from us and one row back, they just lean over to this girl and they're like, excuse me, miss, if you want, you can move over to this seat. It's like, why? The whole plane's packed. This guy's moved to the front. Just leave it there. Why does she have to move here? Why do those two guys now benefit from an empty seat next to them? And I get shafted. And then she was like, yeah, that would be amazing, thanks. And then she hopped up and carried everything that she owns in her entire life with her into the seat next to me. And I still don't understand why. She wasn't a tall girl. She didn't need the leg room. There was no reason for her to be there. It just seemed like a random, like, fuck it, just put her there to piss off this fella. Maybe it's because it's an emergency exit and you have to have somebody there. I've just worked it out, but still, get fucked. So they have to have somebody in an emergency exit. That's why. Okay, we've solved that. Right now in real time. But that's not the point. We're getting to the point. She lumps down next to me. 2 bags. One bag she just puts on the armrest, right? But guess what was on top of the armrest before her bag? My fucking arm. So there was armrest, my arm, then her bag. My arm was the luncheon meat in this fucking airplane sandwich. And I was like this. Looked at her as if to be like, excuse me, could you fucking just move this shit out the way? And she rummages through this bag, moves some stuff around, and then she pulls out one of those neck fucking foam things and straps that behind her neck, and she leans back in there to lie down, and there's like a duvet of some sort, like she pulls that over. So now I've got half of her duvet hanging down my side of the thing, like on my outer thigh on my left leg, and then she's like rolled up in the side, and she's got a fucking beanie on and headphones on and this scarf, and I'm sitting there in shorts and a t-shirt going, are we in 2 different climates? Because it's absolutely roasting in this plane, and you are dressed like you're in the Himalayas. What is going, like, are you just bones? Like, what? How can you be so cold and so fragile and so tired? And this girl was like in her 20s, by the way. She was like, oh, curling up there, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't fucking be bothered. Hopefully I'll fall asleep, and this will be the end of it. Taxi out. Plane takes off. And I think to myself, this is the moment. So I take a sip out of my water bottle, put it back, stick my headphones on, and I'm like, good night, plane. Let's time travel to Ireland. And then I shut my eyes for about fucking 30 seconds. And I start to smell food. And I'm thinking, they're not bringing food out already. They couldn't be bringing food out already on that. I mean, we're still going up. The plane's still going up. Then I open my eyes. And I jest you not, this girl next to me pulls out of her handbag. Now, at this point, we've been on the plane for an hour, right? That's an hour sitting on the plane, then take queuing to get onto the plane, 20 minutes. Hour, 20 minutes. She pulls out of her bag a little ball of tin, like of foil, thick foil, with a sticker on it. And I was like, what the actual fuck is this? She opens this thing up and reveals a fully dressed double cheeseburger, gherkins, American cheese, burger sauce, lettuce, tomato, 2 thick patties in a roll. And they have just been sweating like a fucking ball sack on a bus, just sitting in this little ball of foil in her bag, in this warm plane, festering in its own sweat and juices. And then she opens this thing up, and the pong of just, I love a burger, but I don't want to smell a burger that's been in someone else's bag for a couple of hours to fester. And and the fucking waft, I looked at Ben and I was like, this is a fucking social experiment where there has to be a camera. Someone's winding me up. They're like, when will he lose his mind on this plane? And then she just sits there wrapped up like she lives in an igloo and just slowly and very noisily slobbers through this fucking cold, sweaty cheeseburger. And I was just like, I wanted to take it off her. I wanted to just take it away from her and go, no, what the fuck is wrong with you? That was what I wanted to do. And I just looked at her, and I'm sure she saw me. I'm sure somebody saw me, because I was just giving her a death stare. I was just like, you cretin. You absolute cretin. And then I looked across, and we've got the fucking other bro, Chad, at the other side there, still eating fucking Jack Links, still with his hand in this never-ending bag of jerky, and she's eating this sweaty fucking thing, and the sandwich god is gone up to A1, and Ben and I are sitting there like a pair of dicks, just bathing in these smells. And I just thought, like, no one has any decorum. Like, I feel like it's got worse in general over the last few years. Like, no one thinks or cares about anything around them or other people. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes you want to do shit and it's like, don't worry about what other people think. But in the same breath, there'll be such an oblivious ball bag in your life. It's not that fucking hard to look around and be like, oh, this burger stinks like ass. Maybe I shouldn't open this disgusting piece of fucking meat on this plane right now. I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, I would just never do that. I would be so aware of the fact that the thing I've brought in here stinks. I mean, I'll eat chewing gum, or maybe like some Lifesaver sweets, something silly like that. If you're going to eat hot food on the plane, it should be food that the plane is serving. So as a collective, we all ease into the smell together in an expectation that the smell is going to be there. But like, just whipping a double cheeseburger out of your bag an hour and a half into a journey, like, what's that tasting like? How fucking gross is that? Like, actually disgusting. I just can't. My patience is wearing very thin with the general public. And it's been sitting on the back of my head for ages, just like that whole story. And I felt like that would have been a funny story to share on my Instagram. And I might go and make a compressed version of that as a reel. But I felt like it was too long. I didn't feel like I could get it into like the short time period that you need on the vertical, because even though you can upload a 10-minute video, ain't nobody watching, well, not a lot of people are watching 10-minute videos because of mindset, which is another interesting topic to talk about, where people are spending time and why, which we'll get into at some point. But like, when I'm in those situations, I'm having to deal with the general public, and it drives me berserk now because I spend so long doing it. And what I love about working for myself now is I have so much more control over my time. There are obviously, give or take, like I have to do certain things at certain times, but like I'll happily go and do a shoot at 7 a.m. or start a shoot at 10 a.m. But I'm not going to start a shoot at 9. When someone says to me, oh, we'll meet you there at 9 o'clock, I'm like, nah, 10 or 7. Because I don't want to drive in rush hour traffic. I don't want to sit in the monotony of life, like doing that. I've done that before. When I worked in a city, that's what I did. For years, I drove through for 15 years, I drove back and forth the same route for ages. I did trains for a few years in Belfast, into the train, into the city, out of the station, walk through the city, like fucking zombies, looking around, seeing the same people doing the same shit. And I found that really demotivating, really depressing. That piece that just makes you feel like you're just like an ant. When you just watch a row of ants just walk, and then you like squish a few of them, and like for a minute they lose their shit, and then they find the other one's tail, and then they just fucking root just goes around the massacre and just carries on. And you're just like, that's what we're all doing. So that whole structure of freelance life for me really, really works. And for the most part, I control so much of it. When I do stuff, why I do stuff, what I wear when I'm doing it. And there are little moments in time where I'm sitting on a plane, strapped and buckled into a seat with no option but to just sit there and obey the rules. Well, some pig eats fucking luncheon meats or a cold burger out of a handheld trough. And I just have to sit there and go, right? That's what we're fucking doing. I just feel like eating on planes is like, the whole process is weird. And that does push out to all forms of public transport. Like, don't eat on a bus. It's disgusting. Anyway, look, that's just a rant. I just want to go on a rant about fucking about people eating on planes. It's fucking hilarious. And it's just some of the weird situations that my job puts me in. Again, like with the podcasting, I just like really doing the podcast. I don't really know what I want to do with it. I like the process of doing it. I like the repetition of doing it. I feel like for me, it's a place to talk about thoughts and ideas. And I like the idea of a podcast being a brain dump that you can maybe post-analyze. Like sometimes when I listen back to them, I'm editing them, I'll come up with little ideas of other things I can do, or like short videos, or maybe a bigger project or something I can involve somebody else in. So I kind of just want to use this as a dumping ground for like my thoughts as a creative person. And whether that is stuff that I've learned, like actual life lessons or work lessons or techniques or stuff like that, or something like this where it's literally just a little bit of story time with Dill. Sit down for story time with Dill. Let's talk about monsters eating food on planes, that sort of stuff. It's like, or it's like this one, which is literally just a bit of story time. It's just creative storytelling, which I really love doing. And in the perfect world, everyone would just go, just do this, Dill. Just tell us stupid stories and anecdotes of things you've seen. Never worry about the rest of the stuff, because I could tell you stories all day long. We'll mix and match it up. If it's something you want me to discuss or you want my opinion on, drop it in the comments. Message me on Instagram. Hard thing with that is it does fuck with the whole algorithm game of YouTube. So there's this part of me is like, oh, should I just do this? But I think for me right now, if you think back to the episode we did last week, which was the momentum drives motivation, I think for me it's like, let's just get them done. Let's keep them going. Let's keep the stories going and just try to repeat the thing each month, and then we'll just find our way. What's the worst thing you could eat on a plane? What's acceptable to eat on a plane, and how far can we go? There's like some crisps that stink and others. Anyway, look, we're digressing here. Let me know what you think about that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next episode.
Yeah, you better.